In this episode of Geworsky Backcountry Adventures, my dad and I go to scout some of his old trapping locations from when he was a teenager. We identify tracks and see the effects of weather on the environment. With me, I have a machete, binoculars, a canteen, a multi-tool, and a knife. Dad has the GoPro strapped to his chest, as well as a buck knife. Though, if you look there, you can just see that the ice sure is melting, so it's definitely not safe to go on the ice. Let's keep going.
Oh, we can just scope out a little bit just to show here.
Sharp. Got a bunch of thorns right here. These are actually burrs. They stick to everything. Ow. Do not touch that. A nest. This could actually be a hummingbird nest because their nests are quite small. And the eggs, they're very small, so this could actually be an old hummingbird nest.
This is like prime area for raccoons and, well, deer obviously because it's brush covered. And if you can see out there, the creek obviously, you can see along the bush how it goes out that way, but then it obviously winds back and comes back around here because we've got water standing out here as well, which we're not sure how accessible it will be by foot. But as you can see here, all of the vegetation that's on the trees is dry to non-existent, so there's no wonder that the deer and everything are coming out of their zones looking for food. We even had well, here you can see it's supposed to be a berry on here because this one still has color, but there's obviously not a lot of it out here anymore, and that's why the deer and everything all the animals are actually straying from the bushland where there is really virtually no tree coverage. There was sightings of a wolf pack close to the industrial plant, which is also odd. They don't generally come into populated areas.
There's some deer droppings here, a lot of it actually. And I'm not sure if they're actually that fresh. It could be the moisture from the ground and the snow that's making them look fresh, but they could be.
So far, that's just deer droppings that we've seen here. There's quite a few animal trails though.
Yeah.
Like this is anywhere you can see that it's well packed and trampled.
And we actually saw some coyote tracks out there.
Lots of deer droppings here, so this is obviously just a deer path. The one thing we didn't do was get express permission to be on these properties. And the catch with that is if you stay within so and so many feet of the riverbank, that's considered crown land, and which means that it's government owned and you're okay to be on there. We kind of strayed off of that a little bit, but we didn't get any angry farmers chasing us down with their pitchforks yet, so we're going to carry on to another location. We don't have terribly far to drive. What we're going to do here is we're going to take a dike road. They are calling it 3rd Avenue East now, so I haven't been up here since I was a teenager, but if you look along here, you can see how this
what does that say?
thin ice. And we got some Canada geese on the side, so that's a good sign. These roads have changed a little bit here. That's a property. It's nice when the towns don't grow too much so that they don't invade on the natural wildlife that's out there. Yeah. But now we're on the road it's a little more better maintained than when I used to come out here, but this was the road where we just came from, was one area where I used to do some trapping, and I'm not necessarily so much into trapping now anymore. I feel that the animals were put on this earth for a reason other than to be shot and killed as well. However, I do like tracking them, and in cases where it's ultimate survival, there's nothing wrong with trapping them and eating them and using their furs. This is new. This is a lagoon that they must have built here for the town. The garbage dump has moved out here too, so it definitely won't be as a wild a setting anymore as what it was when I was a kid or a teenager. I used to come here with I had an old Pinto station wagon car, and that's what I did my trapping in. And there used to be the road that you take here had a very steep set of banks on it. I always felt kind of like NASCAR. We always called them the lean back Larry curves. But I have a funny feeling I don't think that they're actually even in existence anymore. Or if they are we going to be able to travel them with our little tiny car? I'm thinking that we may not. This is very disappointing. We're not going to be able to. This was the lean back Larry curve here, but it's obviously, since years gone by, turned into a dirt road and not a gravel road, and an unmaintained one. This road winds all the way back to the river, and in order to get there we'd need a snowmobile or a four-wheeler, which we do not have. There I do see remnants of a truck track in here. So my guess would be that there is somebody trapping at the river. But we'll have to save this location for another time. On to the next. And it was in that region along there, kind of in this stretch. I don't know if you can visualize that, but in that stretch of wooded land is where I did the majority of my trapping for mink, raccoon, beaver. There was some really extensive beaver slides there down to the river, and because it's a bit of a harder place to get to, would be why that there would be more wildlife there, not so much human tracking. Unfortunately, at this point we don't have a four-wheeler or the other tools that we need to get into there, so we'll have to save that for another time. That vehicle definitely looked kind of suspicious. We're not sure why, or what they were up to. But I did notice there's quite a bit of vehicular traffic even when we were on the ground by the Murray. There was a pickup truck that drove by really slow, so I know that they're not real fond on having people nosing around on properties that aren't their own. But as we were last weekend, we went to a location which is just a tiny bush, which we will take photo op and hit that destination again. I was hoping to do it next weekend, but that won't be happening because he's going to go to Orlando and see what kind of interesting stuff he can find out there. Maybe some gators.
Hopefully.
That would be kind of cool.
And I did. I saw a few when I went on a safari at Animal Kingdom, as well as a few fake ones on the Jungle Cruise.
Cool.
And we actually have a friend of ours that lives in Florida, and they actually have some crocodiles in their backyard, which is cool, but pretty terrifying, especially because they have friends that come out there with their 2 dogs, which...
And kids and all the rest of the stuff, yeah. But kind of cool.
They decided not to get the crocodiles removed.
Which I can admire that too, until they become a danger. But again, I guess that's us humans encroaching on what was once their natural environment. Now we're going by the bush where we just were. Fantastic area to take in wildlife. My guess is that there's probably some beaver in there. And, you know, with beaver, after talking to that trapper, Dan, he said that he traps along the river on the other side. And he traps marten and fisher, which, that's good. When I was a kid, a teenager, trapping the marten, the fisher, the otter, they were bobcat, you know, animals like that, at one point used to be in our region, but they had come to the point of almost being extinct in our area. So to hear now, you know, what, 20, 30 years later, that we have a population of these animals again is great, and that they're actually being allowed to trap them because there might be too many of them is even better. I mean, that's great. That just means that our wildlife ecosystem is actually replenishing itself. It's good to hear. Now, along this road, there's many locations that would be quite interesting to get to. Today is just kind of a scoping out day. We're not going to get to see half the locations that we could, and a lot of our adventures this summer will take place on over the weekend campouts, so that we can actually take the time to get into a place and actually explore it, build some rustic places to sleep for the night, check out the animal life a little bit more in detail. But it all takes time. You need time. You don't want to be rushed. That used to be a major fishing spot. My dad always called it White Cross. That's a hard one to get to the river, but would be a good animal spot now. And this is obviously
The White Cross.
Why he called it White Cross, and that was my dad's number one fishing spot he used to take me to. For obvious reasons, it's called the White Cross. There's a road out here that they used to call the Fox Farm, and I'm not exactly sure why it was given that name, aside from that is where I started some of my trapping too. But at one point when my friend Rob and I were trapping and we were going to check traps, because you had to access it via a farmer's driveway, we got escorted off of the property as quickly as we came onto it. And that's the tough part, because all of this land out here is owned by somebody, except when you get close enough to the water, which is when it's considered crown land. Now, again, we've got impassable roads for us to get here this time of year, and with the type of vehicles that we have, which right now isn't anything fantastic. But this is a ditch or a dike, a drainage. But as it gets nicer, we'll be able to travel by foot when the snow isn't so deep along the edges, and you can see old structure out there. But I think this is an oxbow in the river here, which means that the river does a quick loop and wind back, which is usually often good areas too for, you know, checking out wildlife and stuff. But unfortunately at this point we can't venture that. Here is a farm that we'd have to get. I believe this is the one that what I was just talking about, Fox Farm. The one where we got escorted off the property as quickly as we came on. Now you have to drive down his driveway, and from his driveway there used to be a road that went out that way. That then turned into a trail more than a road. It was kind of a four-wheeler type trail. Yes, that is exactly where we are, because we're between two properties here, but the trail goes into the bush, and it's pretty tough going though, like even in prime time of year. Somewhere out here used to be a place where we would go with the canoe, and we called it, the name of it, what we gave it was Lake Louise. Not anybody that knows anything about Canadian geography knows that Lake Louise is in Banff. That's where Lake Louise really is, but this was kind of, I don't know why we called it Lake Louise, but it was It was more of a marshland, but it was open water, not extremely deep, but it was muskrat haven. There was so many muskrats in there, and not only that, we used to catfish along the Red River because the Red River is notorious for catfish. And that was the best place to catch frogs. They were everywhere. So we'd go in there we'd take our, as what Cy calls his now, the parang. But we had just machetes, but we had big club end handles on them. So you'd turn the machete around, you'd hold the blade in your hand, which doesn't sound very smart, but if you're wearing a glove. And then we would just go in there and club frogs. Not hard, just knock them out and throw them in a pail.
And hopefully, on one of the future episodes, we're gonna go and catch some catfish and hopefully some frogs too, and make some frog legs and catfish.
Yum, that sounds wunderbar. And what was the other thing that we were talking about? We need to find a water hole somewhere that we can find some. They wouldn't be considered freshwater crays then, would they?
Not sure.
I don't know. But anyways, crayfish, crawdaddies, crawfish. It's like a little baby lobster, really, is what it is. It tastes like shrimp, very kind of fishy, but it's a really freshwater crayfish have got a really nice flavor to them. But again, because they're so small, it's not like a lobster. You can't eat their claws. I guess
you have to catch quite a few of them.
Yes. Me and your Uncle Poe, as you would call him, used to trap crayfish on his farm. But they were so small, I remember we caught, I think it was around 60. And that was in a little bowl like this, the bottom, because it's just the tail part that you can actually eat. In a survival situation, what exactly would you eat from a crayfish?
You can also eat there is some meat in the claws. You can eat the claws too.
Okay, so in a survival situation, you would likely eat the claws as well to try and get as much.
It is pretty hard to get that meat, and there is a very little amount, but you could do it if you wanted to.
Still some nice old trees standing like that one there. Love those trees. Peaceful day out here today.
This fort was used as a base for the British-Canadian contingent of the International Boundary Commission. In 1874, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or RCMP, gathered here prior to their march into Alberta. And now this is a spruce tree. And what you could do with this if you wanted to, you could take some of these needles, like this, and you could boil it with some water and make some really nice spruce tea. There's lots of health benefits, lots of vitamin C, and lots of other things too, but we're not making a fire today. Tracks going this way.
Yes, what kind of tracks would those be? Those are small. In order from there, they have to be fresh because until yesterday and today the ground has been frozen and they are embedded in the mud. They look to be like they look a little small for coon unless it's a young one, which it shouldn't be yet. That could be mink, or there are other animals out here that I don't even know the size of. But you see, we're leaving boot tracks, so in order for that an animal to be that light, it would have had to have been out here today. There's bigger.
Oh,
See?
yeah.
These are walking the other way though.
Those are quite big.
Those are fox, I'm thinking. Fox or coyote. Fox and coyotes are the two most common of the canine species, so to speak, I guess.
Yep.
Holy cow, those are substantially bigger.
These are huge. Look at that.
Look at the size of these tracks. Those could be wolf.
What you're supposed to do if you see a wolf, you're supposed to maintain eye contact with it and throw sticks at it, throw stones, whatever you can, and act like the alpha male.
You want to appear as big as life so that you can try and appear to be the bigger, and you should usually always be able to pick out the alpha male because they will be the most aggressive. But again, wolf is a very, very clever species.
And actually, a few hours from here, there was a man who was killed by a pack of wolves.
More tracks. These are hard to say whether they're from today or not. But again, they're bigger paw prints. These I'm pretty sure that these are wolf. That was my bit of the camera crew revolting against the boss. Sorry, boss. Oak trees and cedar trees are my favorites. But you only have certain soils, and that's how it can vary from... Yeah, these are all oak trees, because these are all oak leaves. But the type of trees that you have varies so much from area to area. Where we were last weekend, the soil is too thick again. More tracks, more big.
These are older though.
These are older, from probably a couple of days ago.
Yeah. More tracks. These are small.
Again, those could be. These are fresh.
Oh, these are
Those are
very fresh.
Those are very fresh. Those have longer nails on them. If it's raccoon, that would be a fairly big one.
Going this way, so let's keep going.
I'm thinking those could be fox too, but the nails are leading me to believe that they're more of that of a raccoon. And again,
these are going this way.
It's the temperature that we've been having is kind of messing with the animals' biological clocks, because raccoons hibernate. Here we got some big ones again.
Yes, these look quite fresh.
Those are probably coyotes. But the nails are long. That's what's confusing me here. So this could bring us into that marten and fisher. I don't know what their tracks look like. I think in the future, Silas is going to maybe bring with a printout of the different various animal tracks so that we can actually compare tracks to see what they look most like. I'm good. Lots of tracks here today. These are like fresh within the last few hours.
Yeah.
Definitely getting into a bit of a larger species than we've been seeing.
Actually, I don't know if we can go in there or not, but I'm pretty sure that that's the old fort.
I think that stuff is locked up for... This one is permanently closed. You can't go in here, but it's just because of its condition. These are all, from what I understand, all buildings from dating back to the day. I mean, obviously they've covered that roof with metal.
And what's that box up there?
My guess would be there's probably a wildlife cam in there. I don't know if you can see what we're talking about, that white box up on that big oak tree. And that is to monitor stuff that's going on here. That also keeps, that's probably exactly what that is, because it's got a, you can see it's got a clear opening.
Yeah.
So there's likely a camera that gets, a wildlife cam that gets put in there, and that is to catch the wildlife without being interrupted and or knocked away by predators that climb trees, such as, I don't even know what, wolverines. They're not unheard of out here neither, and that is a very dangerous animal, and that could very well be what some of these tracks are that we're seeing here, which is something we should really be watching, because wolverines are very aggressive animals, very territorial.
And my Uncle Poe, he got chased by a badger, which is similar to a wolverine but a bit different, on a bike through the cornfields. Luckily he made it in time.
It's always good to travel with a rifle of sorts. Unfortunately, that is something that we don't have access to at the moment. For the future, maybe for some of our outdoor things, we may need to consider taking one with. Now in summertime, we come down here and actually do some fishing. I think we're gonna maybe take to the muddy road and try and stay on the snow. See if we can get a little bit closer just to see what, there appears to be open water by the old bridge there, or the old dock, right? But this looks pretty muddy here. Burr hell. That would be terrible if you're going through the thick bush and ran into that.
But no. There is a plus to that. That stuff burns really well.
It burns quite well, that's right. When it's in the right season. In spring, those are green.
But right now, those are very good.
Now it's my turn to strike back. And
yeah, see, these are some healthy burrs.
Yeah.
And I think there was a bit of a different variety, maybe.
Yeah, those ones didn't stick as much as these.
But they will even stick to your skin. You can see that they poke the tiny little needles, and if you look at them closely, I'm going to try and zoom in here. You can see it's a bit like a porcupine quill, where the end is tipped over, and that's why when it goes in there, it hooks.
There's actually quite a lot of them.
Oh, this is heavy burr country here.
Not bear country, burr country.
Bears, you never know. We have had on occasion, but it's more rare. But this has been a very interesting year for certain kinds of wildlife to be surfacing out here, which is another reason why it's not totally unheard of that there could be something as crazy as a Bigfoot sighting. Yes, I know a lot of people don't believe in Bigfoot, but he's maybe not a proven creature, but he's also not disproven, in my opinion. This is where our plowed road stops, so we're not sure if we can climb over this. We'll try. If the snow isn't too deep, we'll keep going, but if we start sinking, we'll have to turn back. And it appears from what we can see here that we've got open water here again. The river is very unsafe this winter for snowmobilers and even ice fishing for that matter. This will likely be one of our campout spots.
Earlier this winter, there was a snowmobiler that went missing, and they found him, and his snowmobile was sticking into the water at an angle, and they didn't find his body, so he must have went under the ice, and the current is so strong in this river that he must have just drifted.
Yeah, if they are fortunate enough to find his remains, it will be in late spring, I'm sure. See, if you look in here, now this won't be travelable for, if we're lucky, midsummer, but you see there's an arrow marker there. That's because this is a trail. I'm not even sure what the trail says on, whoa, and we've got bigger tracks here again too. So this will be either, it won't be a ski trail, but it's a hiking trail. But again, because the water levels get so high here, it will be I would guess midsummer.
I'm actually getting really warm in this, and that's because this is wool, and wool it keeps you very warm, and it's fairly water resistant, which is good, because I can't feel that at all.
Look at how high this water is too. Now already. Wouldn't want to go in too much further because remember there's gullies in here that dip down. But in this area is where now normally the water's like a good 10 feet lower than this. But it's in this area where we often come and try and do our catfishing too, so.
And I won't go much closer than this because this snow is very soft, you can sink right through, and there's the water.
This is just runoff water of the red. Like I said, this water has got to be 10 feet, close to 10 feet higher than what we're normally used to for here. Because this is like an overflow. I won't be going further. My weight is putting me through.
If you look down there, I'm not sure if you can see it from here, but there's actually one of those burr bushes, and it's like underwater. That's how high the water is.
Yeah, that just means that we've got water where there's normally dry land. Oh, what it wouldn't be to live in the wild. No job, hunt for your food, live off the land. God's country.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure that it's that side of the river where the Bigfoot was spotted.
That's correct, yeah.
Well, now we're going to start heading back. This adventure is coming to an end.
Is when he's on the run. He fills his chamber up with lead and takes his pain down. The only pleasure he gets out of life is bringing another down. He's got one hand on the throttle, the other he's got on the brake. He's riding back to Redwood down, going far skating. And me, I'll wait in charming town to gain my love. staying here to live my life down in the rising sun.
Hello viewers, this is our new outdoor adventure series called Geworsky Backcountry Adventures. On this show, my dad and I, and occasionally some special guests, explore nature. We will often camp in tents and or bushcraft shelters where we build fires, catch food, and make memories. If you want to see this, please subscribe. It would mean a lot to us. Thanks.